The following program is made possible by the friends and partners of GodQuest Ministries.
From the CTN studio in Pensacola, Florida, this is the Creation Today show with Eric Hovind and Paul Taylor.
And on today's show, we're going to be answering questions about asteroids and fuzzy words.
Fuzzy words?
Yes, they're the words that evolutionists like to use that mean just about whatever they want them to mean.
Fuzzy words.
We'll also be talking about the life of Charles Darwin, and we'll also be talking about whether the Bible teaches a flat earth.
Oh, I've heard people say that before. This is the show where we believe the Bible is literally true and scientifically accurate in every single detail, and we hope you enjoy the show. Well, welcome to the show today where we got a lot of great questions to discuss. I got to say, I am really enjoying getting through all the information we're getting through on the show.
We've got a lot of questions that people have been asking us.
And some really good ones. They're bringing up some really good points, and it's helping us explain the Bible and science in really nice, simple terms, and I like that.
Yeah, so don't forget, there's plenty of places that you can go to if you want to ask us questions. You can go to questions@creationtoday.org.
Of course, if you're on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/creationtoday, and then on
can
Twitter.
Even Twitter us, yeah.
That's right.
If you're a tweeter, then you can tweet us @creationtoday.
I always want to say if you're a Twitter, but it's if you're a tweeter.
Yeah.
I don't understand
Something like that.
But I do tweet.
Yes.
So you can do that at Creation Today. Well, we got a great lineup of some really good questions. Paul, what's our first one?
We have, yes. And Joseph has asked us this question. He says, hi, I need an answer on this evolutionist claim. 24 Themis is one of the largest asteroids that orbits between Mars and Jupiter. Scientists have discovered evidence of water, ice, and organic material on the asteroid's surface. And then he sent us a link to a scientific article. Now, these sort of scientific articles are quite common. And I've got this scientific article here. We printed this out from the website. It's the website of it's in fact a British newspaper.
Whoa, he was trying to impress you.
Yes,
I bet that's what was going on.
So it's got the correct spellings in it. It's a British newspaper called the Daily Mail, and but you'll get similar scientific articles in American newspapers and magazines and so on.
Look at what the headline reads here. Icy asteroid could finally reveal where Earth's water came from. This could be the answer right here.
Yes, and maybe it might be interesting. I'll read a couple of bits. We're not going to read the whole article, but
I want to show them before you show them that, because you're going to get into fuzzy words here. This is what the article looks like before you try to take out the fuzzy words. That's what the article looks like. Now, I'm going to let Paul show you his article after he's highlighted some of the fuzzy words.
I'm not entirely sure the yellow highlighting actually will come out on the camera, but we'll just see. But certainly it will. We'll see it afterwards. And we've got there's a whole page there of fuzzy words, and the point is that there's at least one fuzzy word in every sentence in the article.
I love it. You got to read some of those because this is great.
Yeah, and we need to say what we're talking about with fuzzy words as well, which we'll explain in a minute. But I think what people are often concerned about, Eric, is that they see a scientific article like this and they immediately start to worry. How am I going to answer this? Science has proved this, so how on earth can I read this? You know, people are saying, I don't have a degree in science. How am I going to be able to cope with this and be able to answer it? And what we're going to show you today is that you actually don't have to know a great deal of science.
That's right.
We'll show you in a minute that there's very, very little science in this article.
Exactly.
At all.
Look for these fuzzy words. And that's the thing is, I can't tell you how many times before I understood this, I would look at these things and go, great, how in the world are we going to get the Bible to try to fit this? And that's the beauty. Yeah. We don't have to.
Yeah, I mean, people think, quite rightly, they think about 1 Peter 3, verse 15, and they think, well, we've got to provide an answer to everyone. Does that mean we've got to know hundreds and hundreds of scientific facts so we can answer every single piece of evidence? Well, we've been talking to you and explaining that you don't actually have to know all the evidence. Great if you know some of that you can back up what what you're saying. But the important principle is our presupposition that we know that God has made the world.
Exactly.
And we can see this in this article. Let's read a little bit of it.
This is great.
There's water, ice, and organic material have been discovered on the surface of an asteroid for the first time. This discovery lends support to the theory that meteorites falling on the Earth may have provided the kickstart to life.
All right, right there in sentence number 2, if you didn't catch that, you really need to catch that. It lends support, so this isn't absolute proof, to the idea that the Earth may have provided. I mean, they're already, right in the second sentence of this article, using these fuzzy words to say, hey, look at what happened. They have a great headline here of, kind of making a scientific fact out of their headline. And then it's not till a little bit later that you get into the real science that they discovered.
That's right. And this is why you need to look for the fuzzy words and phrases. And it was as our friend Mike Riddle from Creation Training Initiative that put me onto this whole business about fuzzy words and phrases. Look for phrases like may have, could have,
lends support.
Possibly.
Yeah, they're all throughout there. And as you start reading scientific journals with this in mind, you will see it all throughout it. The writers use that all the time. Later on, it talks about organic material, though, because that's the whole point of this is, did they find organic material?
Yes. Now, this is something that people really need to think about, what the word organic material means. You see, one of the things that you know about if you do a little bit of high school chemistry is what the definition of organic chemistry is. And there's a lot of misunderstanding about this. Organic chemistry is not the chemistry of life. It is the chemistry of organic compounds. Now, what are organic compounds? Organic compounds are compounds of carbon and hydrogen and other elements.
To translate that to English, carbon and hydrogen. Anyway, go ahead.
It happens then,
Just kidding.
all chemicals in living things will be organic chemicals, but not all organic chemicals are things that you find in living things.
Exactly.
Because you can synthesize many organic chemicals, the stuff that goes into gasoline, or as it should be called, petrol. Those sort of chemicals can be synthesized. They can be put together artificially. They're not necessarily from organic materials.
So just because it says organic material, they know that we're going to assume, oh, they found something that was from life, that some living organism had come there. But that's not necessarily what it means.
So let's have a look at some other sentences here, because this is a marvelous. The research reported in the journal Nature suggests that ice on 24 Themis is being regularly replenished. Suggests that. There's another fuzzy word. Let's try another one. Water may be far more abundant in the asteroid belt than was previously thought. You see? They had one thought and they've got another thought. It now appears that when the asteroids and planets were first forming in the early solar system, it now appears that they're changing their views even of their own ideas.
The building blocks of life may be more common near each star's habitable zone.
It's amazing, isn't it? And here's a classic one. Doubt was cast on this theory.
Once it was believed, have long been thought, have worked their magic. I mean, you read through here, may have been, could have been. It is likely that. Okay, where's the real science in this?
There is only one sentence of real science in this entire article, and it's actually down at the bottom of the first page. And here it is. Let's read the real science in this entire 3-page article. It says, astronomers use NASA's infrared telescope facility in Hawaii to analyze sunlight reflected off the rock.
That's the
now,
science.
That's the science. They were analyzing sunlight reflected.
They saw some reflection.
Exactly.
And from that, they get an icy asteroid could finally reveal where Earth's water came from.
So please do not start to worry with science articles like this. Go with a highlighter pen and try highlighting these fuzzy words.
There are tons and tons and tons of fuzzy words in there. You have got to be on the lookout for them, all right? All right, we got more questions to answer right after this.
Everyone's asking questions about our economic crisis, and God gave us the answers. Godonomics, the new buzzword and resource, boldly proclaims, yes, God Almighty does have something to say about the almighty dollar. Mike Huckabee called Godonomics brilliant. This Truth Project type curriculum includes 6 30-minute lessons on DVD, iPad app, or group study guides. Offering solutions in a fun, fact-filled journey, Godonomics teaches a biblical worldview on liberty, generosity, and free market capitalism. Visit Godonomics.com today.
Welcome back. You're watching Creation Today with Paul Taylor and Eric Hovind.
Talking about fuzzy words right now in science and some of the science journals you can look at and really be able to discover what's truly going on there. There's not a lot of science in that last one we looked at.
That's right. You've got to remember that these people have got an axe to grind. They have a presupposition. We've got a presupposition. They've got a presupposition that things have happened without God. The point is that their presupposition is illogical, which is why they have to make these strange
Yours is
claims.
Wrong, ours is right. So there.
You know, talking about things in the solar system, it could well be that people want to know a little bit more about astronomy and about what the Bible has to say about astronomy.
You brought up to me this new comet Ellen that's coming through, or Elenin,
I think it is. It's named after a Russian astronomer, and I've had a lot of emails about this.
Okay.
People have been saying, well, will comet Elenin come in and destroy us?
Is that the wormwood? Is that planet that is that the thing that's going to come take out planet Earth and we're going to be done? Should we all sell our houses and stand on top of a mountain?
I don't know. It could work at times. But, you know, people get upset about comets arriving, you know, and this comet is not actually going to be very spectacular, I'm afraid. You know, it should appear in our skies early in 2012, maybe late in 2011, but it's not going to be very spectacular. But, you know, because I'm a bit older than you are.
Oh, are you?
I can remember a couple of previous comets. I can remember in 1986, Halley's Comet appearing, and I can remember in 1997, the comet Hale-Bopp. And the Hale-Bopp was particularly interesting because it had all the doomsday sayers. Again, at that point, people were saying, well, the rapture's going to happen because this comet's appearing. And there was even one rather unfortunate religious group, which I think was called Heaven's Gate in Washington State, and they committed mass suicide because they believed that Jesus was coming back in a spaceship behind the comet and was going to take them up to be with them. So these are the sort of things. Well, they were
right about one thing. Jesus is coming back. We just simply don't know the day or the hour.
So we've had a lot of emails about this, and you know, is Jesus coming back in 2012? Well, he could be if that's in his sovereign will, but just because there is a comet coming is not going to explain anything about that. And I'm afraid that there are some wacky websites out there, I think we'll have to admit, even those run by creationists sometimes.
There are. You know, I think hindsight is 2020. When he does come, we're going to look back and say, oh, that's what the planets were doing. That's what everything was doing. But I don't think we can look ahead of time and say, well, as soon as this lines up or as soon as this happens, I don't think we can do that.
We had a case early in 2011, didn't we?
Yeah.
On May the 21st, 2011, when the world was supposed to come to an end with things.
We thought about selling Harold Camping's new book, Don't Make Any Plans for October 22nd.
Because that's his latest idea is that the world's going to end on October 21st. No, we're not selling that book.
No, we're not.
No, but seriously, if you do want to get some books, why not get Jason Lyle's book, Taking Back Astronomy, which is a beautiful book. It's got lots of pictures in it.
Those are great books for guys like me. We like the pictures.
We like pictures, don't we? Something slightly more wordy. You'll find some chapters on astronomy, particularly, again, Jason Lyle's chapter in the New Answers book.
And they really do a great job of going into astronomy and things, outer space, things that we're interested in, things that you can see there. So I think that'd be great. Of course, my dad, Dr. Hovind's DVD, Is the Bible Scientifically Accurate? I love that one. It really goes into the science of the Bible. Yes. And there's another one, The Scientific Facts in the Bible by Ray Comfort. So there are a lot of resources out there to help educate yourself on this topic specifically and get into the science of the Bible and what we can know from Scripture.
That's really good stuff.
We've got another question.
We should have another question, I think.
Yeah, let's go for it. Jason writes in. By the way, thank you guys for writing in. Jason writes in. He says, could you recommend any books regarding Charles Darwin and why he married his first cousin? This is true. He did marry his first cousin. He did marry
his first cousin, yes.
He says, I'm aware of In the Minds of Men by Ian Taylor. Was it because he believed his bloodline was superior? And if so, what book would show this? So Taylor's biography, In the Minds of Men, is insufficient. I appreciate your time.
Can we recommend any books on the subject of Charles Darwin?
You know, there's a guy who wrote a book because he specialized in Darwin's life. I got it right here.
Right.
Paul Taylor.
That's the one. Yeah,
Paul
what a
Taylor.
coincidence.
Yeah. Paul, you wrote Darwin
and Darwinism. What a marvelous book this is. Yeah, 150 years later, written by myself and Ian McNaughton.
And you've done a lot of study on Darwin's life.
That's right. And there's a lot of things that are misunderstood about Charles Darwin. It's very important to know a few things about Charles Darwin. So did he marry his cousin because he wanted to keep this pure bloodline? No, actually, I think we've got to be fair on Darwin. I don't think he married his first cousin because of that. But you see,
because he was actually worried about it later.
He
was
right? Very, very concerned about it. I think the reason why he married his first cousin was really because he had a very small social circle.
Poor guy.
And there was actually, he was not the only person in the Darwin family who married someone from the Wedgwood family. The two families got together with Darwin's grandfather. Darwin's grandfather was Erasmus Darwin, who in fact wrote a theory of evolution.
Yeah, really, Darwin kind of took that idea from his grandfather, and Darwin's the one who we give credit for, but really, he just popularized it.
Absolutely, and you've got to understand quite a bit about Erasmus Darwin too. Erasmus Darwin was a member of the Lunar Society. The Lunar Society was dedicated to bringing ideas to Britain from the French Revolution. He was an atheist and a supporter of the Jacobin Revolution
But
in
he
France.
went to church, Paul. If you go to church, you're a Christian.
Well, he didn't go to church, that's the point. He was a member of the church.
Yeah.
And then his son, who was Darwin's father, was also a member of the Church of England, and again an atheist.
Wow.
We have letters that he wrote to Charles Darwin, and so Darwin's father and grandfather were atheists. There is this myth that Darwin was a Christian.
So not a lot different than a lot of the people in church today who claim they believe in God, but they live like he doesn't exist.
Yeah, but of course Darwin was taken to church as a small boy, wasn't he, by his mother. His mother was a Unitarian. Now, what do Unitarians believe? They certainly do not believe that Jesus was God.
Correct.
They're not a Christian organization, even if they claim to be so, because they don't believe that Jesus was God. They don't believe anything really about the Bible. They just think it's a book of interesting stories. So that's the church background that Darwin had. And even the first school he went to was a school run by the pastor of the Unitarian Church. So that's really the background of Darwin.
What about this? Did Darwin repent on his deathbed? Did he recant what he said on his deathbed? Because some creationists still are proclaiming that.
Yes, and I don't know why, because I don't really know what difference it would make if he had, but I'm afraid that it's pretty clear now that the story is not true. Darwin did not recant on his deathbed. He continued with his godless ways and his agnosticism really to the end of his life.
Man, that is sad. So what can we learn from this? There's some great books out on Darwin's life, like the one Paul Taylor did. You can actually read his Origin of Species and really see how he's changed his views. Secrets of the 6th edition. Actually, if you want to start with the 1st edition, Ray Comfort, our friend Ray Comfort, did this book, and he republished Darwin's 1st edition of the Origin of Species, and he included a 50-page intro to it. Then somebody came out and...
this book by Randall Hetke is called Secrets of the 6th edition, and it just shows you how different the 6th edition of the Origin of Species is from the first edition. That Darwin changed loads and loads of his ideas. In fact, he actually gave up on the whole idea of natural selection.
Man,
a lot of people don't realize.
Some great stuff. Okay, is the Earth flat? We got another question coming up that we get accused of a lot. You guys are just a bunch of flat earthers.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that right after this.
Join John Mackay, Director of Creation Research International, on a worldwide tour to discover geological evidence which supports the biblical account of Earth's history and contradicts Darwin's belief that the rock formations took vast amounts of time to be laid down.
The average person sees millions of years. You look at the textbooks and it says these rocks were laid down between 65 and 67 million years ago. Now I've got some old friends, but none of them are as old as that. But I tell you what you can do if you want to run a test. I mean, some of you have struggled as to whether you could believe the world was created in just 6 days because of the evidence of the millions of years. Well, let's just run a check on how much time actually is preserved in those rocks and whether all the dead things, the fossils, really do show life has evolved.
This fast-moving and information-packed presentation is especially enjoyable with John Mackay's Outback Australian style. To order this DVD, go to creationstore.org.
You Christians are just a bunch of flat earthers. That's what you are. You're flat earthers.
That's right.
You're so ridiculous. What?
The Bible teaches a flat earth, doesn't it? Everybody tells me it does.
That's right. That's why I'm not going to be a Christian, because it's just a flat earth.
Because we're just silly Christians.
How many times do we get accused of being so ignorant? And, you know, they almost want to say, you Christians or you creationists, your science is like that of the flat earth, man. I can't believe you haven't caught up to modern science yet.
Yeah, it's amazing. And there are frequent emails that come in like that. People saying, you know, you just don't know what you're talking about. You're ignorant. You haven't got any qualifications.
Well, that may be true for me. But there are a lot of great scientists, scientific journals, things out there where there are incredible Christian scientists that are showing the science behind God's Word that just comes along to support what God already said in His Word. I love it. Well, the question we have that brings this topic up is from Daniel Ryan. Daniel seems like he's coming at us with a little bit of a harsh spirit. He says, I looked on the internet on what the Bible says about the shape of the earth, and I found it as follows. It describes it as a circle, not a sphere. A circle, meaning flat and round, like a pancake. Theists like to point to Isaiah 40:22, which says, it is He who sits above the circle of the earth. In Job, the shape of the earth is a little more specific when it says the earth takes a shape like clay under a seal. Have you seen what clay seals look like? Flat and a circle, like a pancake. And then he gives us the website to go check it out. So accusing us of being flat earthers if we want to take the Bible as literally true and scientifically accurate, which we do.
And of course, one of the accusations that we have is, well, you know, if you're going to be a creationist and you're going to teach people that evolution is not true, then you ought to go back and teach people that the earth is flat.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting things is that actually when you look back in history, nobody's actually ever believed that the earth is flat. And we can show that from the very passage that he quoted, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22. Yes, he's quite correct that it says it's He who sits above the circle of the earth.
Exactly.
What's interesting, though, is that the Hebrew word that is translated as circle is actually used in so many places to mean a sphere. It's a three-dimensional circle. And in fact, in that very passage, it goes on to talk about God stretching out the heavens like a curtain. So we're talking about something that is going on in 3 dimensions.
Exactly.
Now, what is a 3-dimensional circle?
A sphere.
It's a sphere, isn't it? So, you know, it just disproves the point straight away.
Well, and I think the Bible several places uses language that helps us from our earthly perspective understand what's going on.
Yes. I mean, obviously, when you're looking at different books in the Bible, you've got to use the process of hermeneutics.
Correct.
Yeah.
Herman who?
Hermeneutics.
I love the way Todd Friel goes into his hermeneutic spiel there. But he is talking to people on earth, and so sometimes he gives them examples or says things. From our perspective, there is a sunrise and a sunset from where we sit right here.
See, one of the most common examples of that is in the book of Ecclesiastes, where it talks about the sunrise, it talks about the sunset, and it talks about earth being, all the life being under the sun. And so people point to that and say, well, obviously he was thinking that the sun goes over the earth, we're there, he's picturing it as a dome, this sort of solid sphere, hemisphere over the earth. That's what the book of Ecclesiastes is talking about.
I was listening one time, and something that made me realize, like you said, people have known the earth is round for a long time.
Absolutely.
I was listening to John Maxwell, who is a leader's leader. He has written prolifically on leadership and godly leadership at that. But I was listening to a talk he gave, and I showed you this story, this article that he wrote, because in it he talks about the Egyptian, or the librarian in Alexandria, the Egyptian librarian, is that right?
Yes.
The head Egyptian librarian in Alexandria.
We've got his name here, and he's called, how do you pronounce that word?
How do you say that?
Eratosthenes.
Eratosthenes, that's him. That's the one.
Yeah, it's easy for you to say.
Yeah. But anyway, it tells the story of Eratosthenes and how he heard there is a spot, there is a place on the globe where on the longest day of the year, you could look down in a well and see your own reflection.
And you could also see a reflection of the sun.
Of the sun, yes, you could see a reflection of the sun. He surmised because on the longest day of the year where he was in Alexandria, he couldn't see his reflection or couldn't see the sun's reflection. So he said, well, I'm going to travel up to, where was it at? Do you remember?
It's
800 kilometers to
Syene, I think it's pronounced.
And so he goes 800 kilometers up there, and on the longest day of the year, he sees the reflection of the sun.
Yes.
And he surmises from that, well, the big picture here is, and that's John Maxwell's idea, is we got to see the big picture in leadership. The big picture is that the earth is round.
Yes. He actually, in fact, Eratosthenes, he actually calculated the size of the earth.
Based on that.
And he got it wrong.
He did.
He was 8 kilometers out.
He surmised from his calculations using simple trigonometry. He said, well, I believe the earth is a sphere and it's 40,000 kilometers in diameter.
Yeah.
And the correct measurement is
40,008.
40,008 kilometers. So this guy from the 3rd century BC, before Christ, had an accurate depiction of how big the earth was.
And you look at other mythologies, you look at other places, the Babylonians knew that the earth was round, Everybody knew that the earth was round. It is a myth that anyone ever believed in a flat earth. But back to Ecclesiastes, the idea of the sun being over the earth, and you're talking about things under the sun, you've got to understand this from a hermeneutical point of view. What's Kohelet, the writer of Ecclesiastes, who I think is King Solomon, what's he saying?
Yeah.
He's saying that there's things under the sun, which is everything without reference to God. And what we need to do, therefore, is everything is meaningless or vanity if it's under the sun without reference to God. We need to break over the sun. And that's the whole point about it. He's looking at things from our eyes, from a selfish and godless point of view. And that's why it says it. And he talks about the sun rising, sun setting. Now, have you got a copy of the local Pensacola News Journal?
I don't know.
We haven't got one with us.
Pull it up.
Well, you've seen one, haven't you? If you just go to a store and get hold of one, have a look at the back. What does it say? What the information
It says
got?
what time the sun rises and what time the sun sets.
Oh no, does that mean that the Pensacola News Journal believes that the Earth's flat?
They do. No. They're just simply telling us how it relates to us, what makes sense to us as we sit here.
That's right. It's from our perspective, and that's the way that we talk. The Bible talks in such terms. Some people quote things from the Psalms, which are poetic, and yet when you actually look at the scientific statements and the narrative statements in the Bible, it's quite clear that the Bible refers to a spherical Earth.
The Bible is literally true, and the Bible is scientifically accurate in every single detail, and we are not ashamed to stand firm on that fact. It is unchanging. Well, that is our show. If you have questions, you can send them in to us at questions@creationtoday.org. You can join us on Twitter, which is @creationtoday, and on Facebook, facebook.com/creationtoday.
Well, make sure you tune in for each episode just to see if we've answered your question. And of course, each program is archived online at creationtoday.org. This has been a production of GodQuest Ministries.
Yeah, we want to thank you so much for joining us. We enjoy getting the questions and answering them for you. Hope you guys have a blessed day.
This program is available on DVD by visiting creationstore.org or by calling 877-479-3466. To order this episode, use the item number displayed on your screen.